We've spent the last few years totally obsessed with one big question about artificial intelligence. Is it smart, right? Can it write a better essay, code faster, maybe pass the bar exam? And sure, those are important questions. But honestly, they kind of distract us from a massive, urgent shift happening right under our noses. The era of just sitting back and marveling at AI's intelligence? That's over. We need to start asking a much more dangerous question. When AI actually enters our institutions, who holds the power?
To really get why this matters, let's picture a scenario we've probably all been through at some point. You apply for a job, or maybe it's a bank loan or some kind of public benefit. Weeks go by. Absolute crickets. Finally, you get the email. Rejected. And right there at the bottom is a signature from a human manager. On paper, it looks like a human reviewed your case and made a human choice.
But let's peel back the layers of this modern bureaucratic onion for a second. Did that human actually make the decision? Or were you just buried on page 10 of a ranked list that they literally never scrolled down to see? I mean, if an algorithm filtered your resume, flagged your application as low priority, and only presented that human with the top 3 pre-selected options, who really decided your fate?
This whole dynamic is perfectly captured in Martin Novak's 2026 book on the subject. He anchors this shift with one absolutely crucial core mantra. Power does not disappear, it changes interface. Think about that. When we digitize our institutions, power simply moves. It shifts from that final human signature all the way upstream to the preparation of those choices. The human doesn't vanish, no, but their entire field of vision, that is constructed by a machine.
So, welcome to our new normal. It's called a synthocracy. We're defining this as a decision order, where humans formally govern, but the vital, everyday work of detecting, filtering, prioritizing, and recommending, well, that increasingly passes through AI. You can forget those sci-fi movies with a shiny robot sitting on a throne. AI doesn't need the throne to rule. It just needs to organize who gets access to it. It rules the inbox, it rules the dashboard, it rules the default recommendations.
Just look at the massive shift we're undergoing right now. We used to live in a technocracy, right? Where authority was rooted in human expertise, training, and clear, legible hierarchies. You could physically point to the expert in the room. But in a synthocracy, authority gets completely distributed across opaque models, scoring logic, massive data sets, and hidden algorithms. We're moving from a clear system of human specialists straight into an invisible, machine-mediated decision layer that almost no one can actually inspect.
Section 1. Soft synthocracy in action.
So how does this actually operate behind the scenes in our daily lives? Places like HR departments or your local bank. It builds into this entirely invisible workflow. Step 1, the AI parses massive amounts of data. Step 2, it ranks those profiles for the best fit. Step 3, it flags risks, maybe slapping a giant red warning on your file. And finally, Step 4, the human signs off. Human managers are increasingly reduced to just rubber stamping the machine's upstream sorting. I mean, if it's faster and safer for the human to just click approve, then the AI is effectively making the decision.
Which leads us to the ultimate control question. And honestly, this should be mandatory to ask for every single institutional AI system out there. Is AI merely executing an instruction, or is it shaping what the human decision maker is able to see? Because if it's shaping perception and framing the available choices, it is exercising power.
Section 2. The algorithmic state. Now, a bad AI in a private consumer app? Sure, that's annoying. But when AI enters the public sector, the stakes escalate dramatically. Why? Because the state actually holds coercive power over citizens. When AI enters the state, automation becomes authority. A bad AI recommending the wrong pair of sneakers is just a nuisance. But a bad AI risk score from your government? That is a civic injury. It can literally mean being wrongly investigated for tax fraud or losing public housing, all based on a statistical probability that you aren't even allowed to see.
It's fascinating how this hidden, centralized zero point of AI decision-making actually works. From this invisible center, where some algorithm calculates a score or makes a routing decision, the real-world consequences just shatter outward in multiple directions. They permanently affect a citizen's life, their mobility, their legal status, and often without the citizen ever knowing where that impact even originated. This is all happening through what we call agentic government workflows. We're way past AI just answering FAQs on a website. It interprets complex requests, accesses external databases, flags anomalies, drafts legal justifications for denial, and routes sensitive files. Decisions in the algorithmic state are no longer these punctual, single moments you can easily point to. They're procedural chains,
And in a long, automated chain, accountability easily vanishes right into the fog.
Section 3. The threat of AI-tocracy.
And things can definitely get much worse. Let's look at the darker variant of all this, AI-tocracy, where AI becomes this massive force multiplier for authoritarian control. It basically operates on 3 terrifying steps. First, prediction. That's estimating risk before anything even happens. Second, surveillance, which supplies the continuous ambient data needed to feed those predictions. And third, automated control, which actually triggers an institutional action, like, say, instantly blocking a bank account based entirely on that prediction. The understandable desire to manage risk suddenly turns into a system of permanent ambient suspicion.
This leads us to a pretty chilling reality. Prediction becomes a reason for intervention before a person has even acted. Think about it. You might remain 100% legally innocent in the eyes of the courts, but suddenly you become administratively suspicious. You get treated as a threat based purely on a statistical probability generated by a black box model. You're literally being penalized for the math of what you might do.
Section 4. Capability is not authority.
So this brings us to the ultimate philosophical frontier, hard synthocracy, AGI and ASI. Let's say a machine becomes infinitely smarter than a human bureaucracy. Should we just let it run the country? We have to recognize the massive difference between capability and legitimacy. An advanced AI might be perfectly capable of optimizing society with incredible speed and predictive calculation. But here's the thing, optimization is never a substitute for justice. Legitimacy requires accountability, rights, contestation, and actual political consent. Just because something is highly intelligent doesn't automatically grant it the right to rule.
Section 5. The blueprint for defense.
So how do we actually protect ourselves from drifting into this unaccountable synthocracy? We have to build new civic infrastructure, and we need to do it right now, starting with 3 major missing layers. First, data accountability. That means knowing exactly what data is being used and being able to fix it if it's wrong. Second, continuous audit. We need strict logs and traceability to reconstruct exactly how an AI reached a specific conclusion. And third, meaningful transparency. Not just some vague PR statement saying, hey, we use AI, but telling citizens exactly how it impacted their specific individual case.
On top of that, we absolutely need to establish a baseline of minimum civic rights for the algorithmic age. You have the right to know when AI was used. You have the right to understand its reasons. You must be able to demand a genuine human review, correct faulty data, appeal the decision, and, perhaps most importantly, know exactly which human or agency is legally responsible. A citizen must never be reduced to just a mere data profile. These rights are what ensure that public power remains answerable to the people and not just to some vendor's algorithm.
Ultimately, as we weave these incredibly powerful tools into the very fabric of our society, we're left with one haunting question. When the system inevitably makes a mistake, when it optimizes for the wrong things, or unjustly locks a citizen out of society, who has the red button? Who truly controls the architecture of your daily life? That is the question we need to answer, and we need to do it quickly.